Thomas and Humanities team have really been looking forward to today's program. We're going to share lots of best practices in conscious business. Today's theme is Conscious Business, creating a world that works for all. Conscious business infuses our most sacred values in our economy, our jobs, and our work, so it is very, very needed at this time. Our special guest today is Reverend Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith. Reverend Michael is the founder and spiritual director of Agape International Spiritual Center. He is also an award-winning author and internationally renowned spiritual teacher. Michael has appeared on his own PBS special, The Answer Is You, has been a guest on Oprah, Larry King Live, 2020, and Tavis Smiley, and was featured in The Secret. I'd like to share background on why we're here. I'm going to share our elevator story because it summarizes what we're up to. I'm going to share it now. The current standard of business isn't working. It's not sustainable for life on Earth, and many people are fed up. Businesses do not operate in silos. All of life is interconnected. Everything businesses do impacts people, the environment, and the world around them. While businesses are the biggest source of some of our world's most challenging problems, they also offer the greatest hope and potential to help solve these problems. Therein lies an amazing opportunity to break through and upend the status quo by adopting a new conscious business model that creates prosperity and flourishing for all. To do this, business must develop both the awareness and the skills to consciously evolve their organization. Humanities Team's Conscious Business Initiative helps change agents and leaders reinvent their organization using a structured methodology and community of practice that recognizes the interconnectedness of all of life. Of course, what we're talking about here is institutional change. Institutional change focused on business. Business is where the jobs are, where our economy is, and where our income comes from. We have an incredible opportunity to transform existing business to conscious business. Conscious business increases economic prosperity while contributing to a healthy environment and improving human well-being. We go beyond focusing exclusively on profit. In conscious business, we're focused on people, planet, presence, the divine in life, and profit. Right up front, we'd like to share that profit is necessary and valuable. John and I are business people by background. We don't have business without profit. That said, it's important that we create profits by focusing on products and services that nurture humanity and the planet. We'll be talking a lot more about this during today's program. Okay, next, very briefly, I'm going to tell you what we're doing with our global NGO partners to create a global conscious business and a whole new income opportunity that's opening up for consultants, coaches, trainers, entrepreneurs, and business change agents. After my overview, John Thomas and I will have a discussion with Michael Beckwith about our theme today, Conscious Business, creating a world that works for all. Our first step in the Conscious Business Initiative was to come together with global partners to create this Conscious Business Declaration. We spent almost a year working together on this. Irvin Laszlo with the Club of Budapest, which of course is based out of Europe. The Sanji family with the Goi Peace Foundation, based out of Japan. And Chris Laszlo with the Fowler Center for Business out of Case Western Reserve University joined together with us in initiating the Conscious Business Declaration. You can read it at consciousbusinessdeclaration.org. The first principle in the Declaration is this: we are one with humanity and all of life. Business and all institutions of the human community are integral parts of a single reality, interrelated, interconnected, and interdependent. Now, I want to just share how important this is, that this declaration is standing in this timeless truth, this ancient truth, about ultimate reality, that we are all one with the divine, each other, and all of life. And in the future, we believe that we'll see declarations and manifestos and processes, etc., addressing our oneness in all of the spheres of life. I won't read the whole Conscious Business Declaration, but there is much more, including the call for full economic, social, and ecological transparency, a Restore the Earth imperative, and a commitment that business will increase economic prosperity by contributing to a healthy environment and improving human well-being. Please read it, sign it, and become an ambassador for it. The Declaration is revolutionary. Imagine global business embracing this timeless universal principle. We are one with humanity and all of life. This is the first wave, leaders joining hands and saying, this is the way the business will work. The second wave is where you come in, where we will need lots of certified conscious business agents with the training, certification, and toolkits to help start and transform businesses. After people sign the declaration, we're asking business leaders to train someone to transform their organization. And if they don't have someone trained, they'll need to hire someone like you. We'll be referring them to talented, certified conscious business change agents when they reach out to us in Humanities team. Of course, change will not happen by just signing the declaration. It will happen when we put the principles of the declaration into action and we reinvent global business. This is what our Conscious Business Initiative is about, reinventing global business. We'll talk a lot more about this during today's program. And during today's program, we're going to discuss how the conscious business principles map to an evolutionary worldview. The Reverend Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith has contributed extensively to this new worldview and is a leading spokesman for the new spirituality and for conscious business. So next, we're going to turn to Michael to discuss today's theme and his many contributions to conscious leadership. And welcome to the program here, Reverend Michael.
Oh, it's my joy to be here with you, Brother Steve and Brother John. Thank you so much. The overview was fantastic. Your overview itself was inspirational and it covered a lot of key points. Very powerful. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, we are so pleased to have you with us. Oh boy, can't tell you. So let me, Reverend Michael, let me come in with the first question, and then John and I are going to go, we'll rotate here. So this first question, as you know, last summer the Humanities Team Global Council met at this Peaceful Valley Ranch in Colorado, and we decided, of course, there to dramatically expand this Conscious Business Initiative. We discussed in our early draft of the Conscious Business Declaration our vision for creating this Conscious Business Training Program, and of course you joined us at that meeting. You were very supportive of these ideas, and of course you said, yes, I'm in, and I'm going to come in and be part of the faculty here in the fall, so which is thrilling for all of us. And I want to just ask you, why do you think, Reverend Michael, that conscious business is so compelling at this time in humanities evolution?
It is my personal belief that business really has the it is the vehicle for peace. That oftentimes when people think of business, they think of sometimes avarice or greed, or as you were saying earlier, just profit. But when business evolves to become conscious business, carrying the vibration that you spoke about, even on a global scale, it has the possibility to unite people. People are not going to kill and bomb and maim their customers or those individuals that they're circulating goods to. And so I think that when we speak of conscious business and where we stand today, as the entrepreneurs begin to carry a large vision, as what was mentioned of the planet, a large vision of the people on the planet, a large vision of the environment, when that becomes built into the business model, it becomes a vehicle for peace. Now, peace is not just the absence of conflict. You know, peace is the dynamic of harmonizing good. In other words, business becomes a purveyor of good. It becomes an instrument of good on the planet, not just feeding an acquisitive appetite, but it actually becomes a vehicle to generate good and to create good on the planet. That will benefit all the people on the planet. So I think it's really hopeful that it's as it becomes conscious, it becomes an avenue of more good than we could possibly imagine.
Thank you, Reverend Michael. Yeah, that's what you just said expresses the whole spirit of this declaration of business as a purveyor of good. And I wanted to ask you about a quote that is attributed to you that I love, and I think it's very relevant to everything we're talking about. And you once said, "Don't look for your dreams to become true, look to become true to your dreams." And as I think about all the change agents that we're attracting into this community to do this work, I think it's a really relevant quote. I'd love for you to just reflect on that for the change
Well,
agents listening in.
absolutely. That particular quote is speaking to the evolutionary urge that's within us, and it's speaking to the part of us that is seeking to grow, develop, and unfold. So we're not waiting for our dreams to come true, which puts us in a position of being a victim, wishful thinking, hoping that something's going to happen, hoping that our ship is going to come in when we haven't sent any ships out. Becoming true to our dreams means that we're actually inviting ourselves to become better individuals. We're inviting ourselves to evolve. We're inviting ourselves to activate the gifts and the talents and the capacities and the potentialities that are within us and to set us free. So we may have a very large dream, and that dream can pull us to being the next great version of ourselves. So that's what dreams are for. They're not for wishful thinking or make-believe way of being in the world. Dreams are for us to pull us into cultivating places within us that are latent, potential that's latent, gifts that are in their incipiency or embryonic state. So at the end of the day, when we're living our dream, we're not the same person that started the path. We've actually evolved and have become a different being. We are more expanded in our consciousness, more generous in our heart, more kind in our speech, more patience in our way of living. We have a greater understanding of life and the interconnection of life. We've become a new creature in the highest potential of our being. That is becoming true to the dream and true to our dreams. So it's not magical thinking, it's actually the emergence of who we are.
I love that. That is awesome. Well, and it's so good to have you on the faculty here, Reverend Michael. That's exactly what we're talking about, just becoming a new creature ourselves, and having the business become this whole new generator of good things in the community and in our world. I wanted to go back again to Colorado. It was so exciting to have you and Ricky Byers back with your wife with us. Of course, we last spring gave you our 2015 Spiritual Leadership Award. It was so incredible to be with you. And when you received the award, you gave a very powerful talk in it. You spoke of the global transformation of humanity into the collective realization of oneness. And one of the things that you shared during that talk is we're going to enter a period of what you called hard labor to give birth to a new world. You talked about this transition involving hard times. How do you see this playing out in terms of the economy and business as we know it today, Reverend Michael?
Well, first of all, I just want to once again thank you for the honor that you bestowed upon me and Ricky in receiving that award. It was a very high moment in my life, and it spoke to just keeping me working to be worthy of the honor. So it became a strong motivating force in my life. So I really appreciate what you did as an organization and who you are as an organization. When we speak about giving birth, each of us are midwives to ourself, midwives to our greater self, and we're midwives to a kind and just global society that works for the highest and best within us all. Now, what we're speaking about here is literally a paradigm shift, a way of thinking that changes. So, and the old paradigm, that's the paradigm that's about survival, based on separation, lack, limitation, scarcity, not enoughness, that breeds greed and avarice, fear, doubt, worry, control of the commons, control of the environment. That's a very old paradigm that has been living itself for a very long time. And now we have this conversation that we're in right now, which is actually a representation of the new paradigm that's emerging. It's a paradigm that believes in unity, oneness. It believes and has an awareness that there's more than enough for all, so that immature competition begins to dissolve. It's an awareness that that on the earth right now, technologically speaking, there are ways and means and methods to feed everyone, to take care of everyone to have food and shelter and water, education. All of this exists right now on planet Earth. It's not a future pie in the sky one day. It could happen. Right now, all of those structures exist. So there's a shift of a paradigm that's taking place. Now, whenever there's a shift of paradigm, there's a resistance. And in that resistance, there is suppression. And in that suppression, there's all manner of control and lies and scenarios that are told to us to keep us suppressed and in fear. So when I speak about hard times, I'm speaking about we're moving through that particular period where the suppression is becoming even more intense because the paradigm of change is more closer to happen. So the more you become closer to a great change, the suppression agents come out even stronger. And so you have more and more news about war, more and more news about terror and fear in the world, even though at this time in our human history, there's less violence in the United States. Over the last 10 years, violence has gone down. There's less wars on the planet than any time in human history. But when you listen to the corporate media, you would actually think that there's more war and there's more violence going on when in fact there's less. So that is the use of the media to suppress our consciousness into not seeing the unity and the oneness that is now emerging. With the advent of the internet, you know, we have the global brain, and with the advent of individuals that are conscious, we're developing a global heart. And so with the global heart seeping into technology, people are discovering that everyone around the world is not their enemy, that all people are not their enemy, that we have a saying in the Association for Global New Thought that the conscious majority are really individuals that want to wake up every day, take care of their children, make sure their children have enough food to eat, enough running water, shelter, education, and health care. The majority of people on the planet are not trying to kill anybody. So there is a conscious majority of people on the planet that are open to the new paradigm shift. However, those that control, you know, the commons, and those that control, you know, talking about old stodgy way of corporate way corporations work, don't want to give up that control, and so they make things a little difficult. So whenever there's a birth is intense. And I'm not saying that birth is evil. Birth is intense. So we're in a very intense period right now, and so it behooves us all to be able to articulate the vision of where we are going, because there's a law that states you do not describe what you see what you describe. And so as people are being inundated with the description of a negative worldview, they're experiencing that. We're of the ilk of, we are reporters of the new. We are reporters of the emerging paradigm. And as we become very adept at its description and its possibility and its potency, we will ultimately experience that. But it's not going to come without a labor, without us being conscious midwives of that which is trying to be born. It's a very intense period we're in.
Thank you for that answer, and I remember the talk you gave, and very inspiring. And what I often find with you, Reverend Michael, I wanted to call out and ask you about is this optimism. And it's like you talk about this like you see the birth as it's just a foregone conclusion. This is going to happen, and I wondered if you could comment on like what is the source of this optimism, and that this is not just some crazy dream.
It's two things. It's one, I have a very powerful connection to Source that for 40 years or so, you know, I had a tremendous spiritual awakening. And in this awakening, I could see, when I'm talking about seeing, I'm not talking about with my eyes. In consciousness, this love, beauty, intelligence, this life presence, so real to me, inundating every aspect of my being. It was all around me, all through me. It was in everything, animate and inanimate, this light. And once you see something, you can't unsee it. And it became the primary driving force to consciously evolve and consciously put my whole life into this devotion and adoration of the Spirit. of the love and the intelligence and the beauty that's everywhere, and the abundance, until it's more real to me than anything else. So it's real. And secondly, you hit upon it. You know, I've had vision more than one time of actually seeing, you know, the collective unity, of seeing this unified awareness of all of us living in this dynamic of oneness. And so I'm pulled by a vision, and I have the feeling tone of my oneness, and I'm not distracted by distractions. So there are plenty of distractions, but I'm not distracted by the distractions. So I don't sublimate or hide from the fact that there are negative things going on the planet. There are deaths. There's the raping of the rainforest. There's the killing of particular species, hundreds a day. That there are individuals that are fomenting a separation out of their mouth. I'm not hiding from the fact that there's pollution in the environment, and that we're facing an extinction a degree of radiation that's seeping from Fukushima, and the leaking of our own nuclear power plants throughout the United States, and that these things are very real in terms of the facts of any of these things that I've just mentioned are an issue unto themselves that could cause the human race to be extinct, you see. And so I don't hide from all of that that's going on the planet, but I'm aware, just as on an individual level, I've seen bodies riddled with cancer or diabetes, and I've seen an individual shift their awareness, and with the power of intention, vision, prayer, nutrition, and the right things, I've seen the body heal itself when doctors have said, this is impossible. This person is going to be dead in 3 months, 2 months, 1 month. I've seen it. So on a global scale, I feel that as we come together with seminars and webinars like this, and more and more and more of us are beginning to describe the possibility, and we begin to come into a sense of coherence around that dynamic, that which has taken hundreds of years to bring us to this point of negativity, in a short period of time, we can turn it around. As a matter of fact, we have to turn it around in a short period of time because the issues are life-threatening. And so, as I said earlier, there's already technologies on the planet. They too are at times being suppressed by an old paradigm. That once freed, you're looking at the golden age. When we move from, as an example, you move from an economy, a world economy that's immature because it's primarily funded and fueled by petroleum, a non-renewable resource, so that debt is built into it. Whenever you're dealing with something that's non-renewable, debt is a part of the program. As we're slowly shifting to renewable resources, then debt is and scarcity aren't a part of that particular program. Now you're entering into not pie in the sky, but real boots hitting the ground on the earth abundance, golden age, because you're dealing with something that's renewable all the time, that ultimately fuels and funds the economy. Now you're seeing a shift from an old economy that's based on win-lose to an economy that's based on win-win. So all of this exists today. You know, there's energy sources today that can free us from the petroleum-based economy. It's a matter of, do we have the willingness as a species and the spiritual will to actually, and the courage to walk in that direction. You know, it was Pierre Teilhard Chardin that said, in substance, you know, that we're at the stage of our evolution now that that humanity is either choosing suicide or adoration. We're going down the path of suicide, greed, avarice, separation, or adoration of the spirit that is within us all, until it leads us with its guidance, its wisdom, its insights, its revelation, its inspiration, You see, and that's the choice we're facing now. And I believe, I feel, I'm optimistic because I've seen I've had a vision, and I'm more than optimistic. Well, optimism is not a bad word, because optimism actually means making the best out of any circumstance. An optimist does not believe that there isn't negative things going on. An optimist simply believes that in the midst of the negative, there is something that is trying to emerge, and we have to see it and bring it forward. So I'm very optimistic, and I'm fueled by a vision, basically.
Oh, man. Well, that's a perfect lead into, again, we're just thrilled to have you as part of the faculty here in the Conscious Business Training and Certification Program that starts September 19th. And Reverend Michael, can you talk a little about the program that you're going to teach as part of the faculty?
Well, I think there's going to be moments of teaching individuals how to really stay strong and inspired during the change, and going from one paradigm to another, how to stay strong when the shift hits the fan, so to speak, individually and collectively. I'm going to be speaking and going into more in depth about the different stages of business that we have come from historically. You know, when you were seeing me speak there in Colorado, I spoke to a degree about success 1.0, which is basically I get rich. I do anything I can to get rich. Success 2.0 says that once I get rich, I become a philanthropist. Once I have my basic needs met and I have more than enough, I seek to grow to be to support charities and spiritual communities that are making a difference on the planet. Success 3.0 is built into my business plan, is my give back. So I am basically changing the world as my business is growing. And so I'll speak more about that particular change, because I think that's where we're all going now. I think even the millennials are taking on that particular dynamic and not waiting till one becomes what they think is rich, because oftentimes I've discovered here at Agape that individuals have a lot of money, but they're afraid of losing it, afraid of circulating it, afraid of enjoying it. And they end up setting the bar higher and higher. Okay, now I have 50 million. Oh, I'll start giving when I have 80 million. I'll start giving when I have 120 million. I'll start having when my next 5 generations are all multimillionaires, you know. And so we're talking about a shift of consciousness where people are giving along the way. So I'll be speaking about, you know, how to be inwardly fortified, how to articulate a vision, how to embrace your real purpose, how to wrap your attention around your real mission, so that your business is mission-led, and so that when you wake up every single day, you're actually pulled by this mission, so that when it becomes calamitous in the world and distractions inevitably will come into your awareness, your mission and your purpose will be your guiding light. You know why you get up every day. You know why you're resting when you're going to sleep. You know what's coming out of your mouth in terms of conversation, vision, talk. All of this is very important. So those would be some of the things I get to cover as a faculty member of this wonderful program.
Outstanding. Well, we're so looking forward to that, Reverend Michael. And I just want to share, you know, it's such a resonance. We always feel like you're just such a kindred spirit when we connect. And, you know, both Humanities Team and Agape International have this very aligned, big vision of this is the time for Humanities Team to recognize, awaken, and embody this oneness. And we feel special with this whole program, a special fondness that you were there when we were just hatching that egg. And here we are now. We've launched the Conscious Business Declaration, and you're one of the early signatories on that. And we're launching this training program, and we did it in the May, but you're here now in the fall faculty. And I just want to invite any comments, you know, what we're doing in terms of, I think I know already all of this is aligned with the vision you've been sharing, but any comments on just the importance or the significance of these acts a declaration of oneness for business, training programs, the community of practice that we're building. Just your reflection on what we're doing here.
Yeah, there's two things. One, I teach that the emerging edge of humanity is collaboration. We're going from immature competition to collaboration and support. And so us coming together like this is actually in the dynamic of collaboration. And everyone creates a field around them. We have a field that's generated that is real and as rich as magnetism or gravity. And we come together like this in this kind of setting when we're having classes and we're having webinars. We're creating a field. And that field is actually the field of the new paradigm. It can be measured. You can actually measure the field of someone being inspired, the field of someone that's making a change from fear to love. You can actually measure that dynamic in the thought patterns, in the thought forms. So it's very important, collaboration, the global heart from this kind of field. And just as when an individual is training their mind, they're creating new neural patterns in the brain so that they're moving from fear and worry, greed, avarice, separation, which can become habitual when you're living from the survival mechanism only. And so what we're seeking to do in classes like this is to create a global neural brain that is about kindness and generosity, creativity, beauty, elegance, support. We want to, because I think they're a natural part of us on a spiritual level, but we've been inundated so completely with commercialism that by the time a child is 7 years old, they've seen millions of commercials about how they don't matter unless they have the latest toy, or they don't matter unless they're in the in crowd, they don't matter unless you can fill in the blank. So they have a neural pathway of lack and scarcity and separation. What we're creating by classes such as this is a neural pathway that we matter, we're significant, everything we want and need and hope for is already within us, and we have to set it free. So it's very important that these kind of classes happen, and it's very important that people register and sign up. Even if you think you know the information, when in an undistracted manner you pay attention and you participate, you create a new neural pattern that allows you to begin to see life differently. And as you see life differently, you become different. And spontaneous goodness can take over. So I would say collaboration and creating new neural patterns extremely important in order to give birth to the new paradigm.
Awesome. Boy, let me just say too, I think to all of our listeners can see this, but so often there's this sense that we're lost. Is there a path forward? Is there light at the end of the tunnel? And what's being described here now, this is it. This clearly is the path forward. This is where we can collectively go, and this is where we're collectively going now. And it's so wonderful to have you, Reverend Michael, in this program, because what we're talking about is bringing our spirituality to business, and as we know, we want to bring spirituality to all parts of our life. It's what makes life rich, and it's just your articulations of this are so powerful and so inspiring. So it's wonderful to have you here with us.
So that was hugely inspiring, and I wanted to turn and ask you a few questions, Steve, because I've been so inspired by your life and how the things, the path you've been on, not just during these past 13 years at Humanities Team, but before that when you were a successful executive and entrepreneur. So you left Silicon Valley where you started and led a couple of companies that you believed humanity could manifest a new dream. What is the dream that caused you to leave that? And what is that dream, and how is conscious business related to this?
Yeah, thank you, John. I look forward to turning this around here in a moment, too, to talk about all the incredible things you're doing. Reverend Michael talked about, among other things, this whole, what he sees where often there's this focus on creating financial wealth and and many times it's just massive, 20 million or 50 million. But what often happens is this this thing where a person says, well, when I double it, when my 20 million goes to 40 million, then I'll give. And then when you get to 40 million, when my 40 million goes to 80 million, then I'll give. And I just want to share, I had the personal experience of working with business leaders like this. I was in some business groups and in what they call forum, where we shared in a very personal way. And I was in touch with leaders like this, where it was like quicksand. It was there was this enormous wealth with private jets and all these things, but there was a sense that I can't really. I've got to keep kind of bringing treasure in to support me and my family, and likewise in the business, we need to grow the 200 million in revenue to 400 million in revenue, and then we can become more philanthropic, more charitable. And so I was seeing this, and candidly, it was very disheartening to me. It was this whole Darwin survival of the fittest thing that was playing out, both at an individual level, at a family level, and also at a business level. And so and during this time frame, I was having my own really deeply spiritual experiences where I was feeling the incredible presence of the divine and in me and in other people in all of life. And so, as you mentioned, I lost my passion for business. I walked away from business, and I saw this new dream. It's the dream actually we've been talking about here with Reverend Michael of seeing this one presence, this divine presence that's manifested in all people and in all of life, and seeing this possibility that we could. That humanity could manifest this dream together and create this world that we all want for each other and for our families and for our kids and for the next generation. So, and there is this quantum physics and these mystical truths that have been around over the millennia that say that we're all one. So I left business to work with other people like you, John, like incredible people like Reverend Michael and others, scientists and world leaders and spiritual leaders that are devoting their lives to this work. And what's exciting, you said, well, what does this dream have to do with conscious business? Well, it has everything to do with conscious business. And John, this is why it's been so exciting working together with you these last couple of years, because we could see that that business is, in a sense, pulling the train here on the planet, because our income and our jobs and our paychecks are tied to business. And there are many emerging businesses that are doing wonderful things, that are very philanthropic and that are focused on being generators of good things in their community and in the world. But there also are many businesses that are generators of things that aren't healthy at all for our families or for communities or for the world. And so, of course, this is why, John, you and I reached out to our partners, these NGO partners of ours, the Club of Budapest, Goy Peace Foundation, the Fowler Center for Business, was to say, isn't it time for a new standard for business in the 21st century? And if it is time, isn't the way to create that to start with something like a declaration that just lays out in the very simple principles of what businesses can be, where they're a generator of good things? And so, of course, this is what we did, and we've got these incredible partners. There are 4 of us in total, 4 NGOs that created this declaration. And, of course, we're incredibly excited about it. It's the first of, there are other parts to this initiative. We've talked about the curriculum, a little bit about the community of practice. There are other parts as well. And as we know, what makes us so excited about this initiative, the declaration and the initiative, is that it creates this where this beautiful, this functional, beautiful, healthy, vital new world is all possible where we go in the direction of conscious business.
Excellent, thank you. And I wanted to ask on a more personal level. So, of course, in the training and in programs like this, we talk about many principles and practices that can be done in business. But how does your spiritual practice come in? Is spiritual practice integral to conscious business?
Yeah, and it's huge, and where in humanities team with all of the things that we do, we talk about this inner journey being the first step, which is our spiritual practice, because we're just talking heads, we're just articulations of messages, and we're not really any kind of expression of the message without our spiritual practice. So it's incredibly important to me and all of us in humanities team, and I think it's incredibly important for business leaders. So for me, it starts with just being out in nature, and I do that in a number of different ways, including I ride my dog around a lake that's near my home every morning, where I just feel just the beautiful, beautiful energy of the divine in nature. It's one of my favorite things all day. I'm also on my back porch, where I'm just sort of sponging up, soaking in that energy of love and of divine presence and blessing and innocence and all of these things that where we just open ourselves, and especially outdoors, we can feel it. Other things I do as well, there are affirmations that I've written. I've written a bunch of them, and there are a few that I spend time with each day, where I'm just really going through these affirmations of what the divine is doing with me and for my family and for humanities team and for this conscious business work that we're doing. And then Reverend Michael was talking about the reality of the divine and how it's more real than any of these, what he called distractions. And I so relate to that. I'm guessing many listeners do too. The true reality is that there is just this divine presence that we're connected to, and that each person is connected to, that life is connected to. And these distractions, the silly things going on in politics right now here in the United States, the serious things like immigration problems and loss of jobs, there's a lot going on in today's world. But if we put our energy to healing these things that are out there, Reverend Michael talked about it just being a prayer that we're kind of encasing or putting around or holding around these things, these distractions, these challenges, these problems, then we're doing our part, we're playing our role in just this process of creating this new world. So to the best of my ability, I have a big window right here in my office. You're looking at me facing the other way, but I'm actually looking out on a window with nature, and it's a wonderful, beautiful, powerful way for me to just stay connected to this one true reality, which is our oneness, which is the divine presence. I do, to the best of my ability, I stay connected to that energy all day long, and so those are the ways that that my spiritual practice works.
Great. No, thank you. I can relate to so much what you share. In fact, I'm looking out a very similar window here that I face. You know, when you in your class, Steve, you teach a couple of really amazing classes in the training program yourself as part of the faculty, and one of those classes goes into the whole entrepreneurship experience, and another class goes into your experience at humanities team. And you sometimes talk about this power plant of oneness that brings such personal benefits and business success. And so can you share a little bit about that? It gives a flavor of something you talk about in your classes.
Yeah, I sometimes use this term power plant of oneness. What I'm referring to is just what the spiritual practice, which I was describing, where I'm just myself being connected to the divine, and where my energy is just radiating that divine energy out. The power plant is when we create a culture and an organization where we're doing that together. And in Silicon Valley, I had an opportunity to do that with my colleagues and partners. That was a for-profit company that was growing very rapidly. Here in Humanities Team, we're a nonprofit organization where we have a culture of doing that together. And I call it a power plant because when a group of people comes together in a culture where you're staying connected to the divine, and as you know, John, in Humanities Team, we call it being spirit guided. We use other words like no control because it's not, we're not trying to control anything. It's just the opposite. We're actually receiving that spirit-guided energy in. We're all kind of creating a container within the organization where we're doing that together. And it creates a true power plant of inner peace, a power plant of productivity, a power plant of harmony, a power plant of authenticity, a power plant of really being connected with our own destiny as to why we're here. So it's this is incredibly important, I think, for this conscious business initiative, because this is the opportunity that we all have is to not only create it in our own lives, as I'm guessing listeners are too with their own spiritual practice, but to bring that into organizations, nonprofits and for-profits, and create and to have the organization stand in oneness where this incredible energy is harnessed that creates just amazing things, both at a personal level and at a business level.
Thanks for sharing that, Steve. So I have one more question for you, and that is, you know, you can tell from your journey, your life journey, all this passion you have about conscious business and the way you've lived it. What would you say to someone who's maybe listening in, is interested in this, but they're not sure in their own business or career, that this is a leap I could take? Is this something I could do to become a change agent?
Boy, I'm going to just answer this quickly, John, because I want to come around to you. Is just, boy, if you know, connect with it. If this is your inner guidance, connect with it. Say yes, stand in it, and as we know, when we connect with something and stand in it and say yes to the universe just brings it on. And I've heard you talk about this too, John, in a very powerful way. So, and then the incredible thing about this opportunity is that I think that this is handheld devices and cloud is kind of where we see the opportunity now in business. As we know in Humanities Team and with our partners and faculty and students, we're all seeing that the next big major revolution or evolution is in this area of conscious business. So when we say yes, we're not only saying yes to becoming authentic and becoming powerful in our own lives, we're also saying yes to what we think is a great income opportunity to go out and help businesses transform into conscious businesses and to create right livelihood, to create income, where we're out doing good things, where we're helping to launch new businesses that are based in oneness and transform existing businesses to conscious businesses. Okay, John, I'm going to come around to you here because I'm looking forward to now asking you a few questions. Your experience of conscious business began while you were working in the corporate world at Intel. So I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you were inspired to leave Intel to come to Humanities Team to lead this conscious business initiative.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, I'm happy to share that because I was at Intel for some 17 years and really it was a great experience in many ways. So I think, you know, what I'd like to share is many people listening to this might think that it's that working in a large corporation, that the spiritual path of waking up, of growing up that we talk about in these webinars, and doing conscious business in a large business is something incompatible about that. And that hasn't been my experience, actually. In fact, in my own journey, working in a large corporation, corporate environment like Intel, it was like the perfect place for my own development. And ultimately, it was the perfect place for me to embrace conscious business as a form of sacred activism, as a way to express my deepest experience of oneness. So, and I suspect that some of what I experienced in my journey is similar, and many people listening will resonate with some of this. Without going into all the detail, and I share some of this in some very explicit detail in one of the classes I teach in the program, because some of these experiences, I mean, you couldn't script it. You couldn't. It's like a movie script. The way the universe responds when we are all in. We're all in our spirit of serving the greater good, but like many, I for quite a while while at Intel, I had my private life where I did my spiritual work, and I had my spiritual community, and I did my meditation, and that was like one life was compartmentalized, and then when I would show up at work, I would be kind of overrun with the big corporate culture that I was working in, and all the stress, and just a tornado of activity and the corporate politics, and so on and so forth. And then in my own experience, that without going into all the detail, that environment actually broke me open in a way that spiritual did dawn. And in a way, much like Reverend Michael was talking about, this incredible experience of the connection of oneness and this vision of what is collectively possible in our innate oneness happened. And but I went through a period of time, in my experience after that, where that wasn't like fully integrated. It was a period of living in what I call sort of the jacuzzi period of of my life and my experience, and that I found this deep place of peace, and that I could now navigate the corporate world in a way where I wasn't attached, I wasn't stuck in things the way I used to get stuck. But past a certain point, it's almost as if that just flattened out. There was this period of, it started to feel almost like an incomplete embodiment of what was revealed, and that was all. How to describe that? I mean, it's a bit like you breaking out of your cocoon as a butterfly, and you're no longer a caterpillar, and you're no longer trapped in the cocoon, and you're this amazing new being, but flight hasn't happened yet. And that is the invitation. In my case, the universe just kicked me off the cocoon with this very profound experience of when I experienced seeing the movie The Inconvenient Truth, it was sort of this tremendous heartbreak. And I realized that it just totally, I let my heart break, and I sort of saw that it's not only climate change, but there are many ways where business is not part of the solution. In fact, business is creating some of the most systemic dysfunction on the planet today. And here I saw it as a leader in business, and I saw that, wow, I have a direct role in this, and that it was almost spiritually narcissistic to stay in this place of peace and inner fulfillment and not let my heart be broken by that. So that's what happened in my case. I thought I'd have to leave Intel. I thought my career, that I couldn't possibly, I made this a complete consecration of my career to spirit. I said that this is no longer in service just to me and my family, that what I have here is for the greater good. And I thought I'd have to leave Intel, that there's no way that I could possibly do that kind of work. But in fact, what I found, and the great lesson for me, is no matter where you are, if you make this consecration to express oneness through your career and your job, that doors open. And many doors opened at Intel. I was able to work with incredible eco-technology professionals. We could bring solutions to the world. I was able to work with, help colleagues there launch a mindfulness program that is called the Awake at Intel program. It's now spread to many locations inside Intel. And I was surprised over and over just how these doors would keep opening. So that did lead, I was so happy to meet you, Steve, when we started meeting, and you were curious about what was going on at Intel, and Humanity's team was interviewing some of us at Intel. And when I learned about your journey, I got this opportunity to really do an early retirement from Intel, and you and I got to talking about, well, what's possible. Doesn't it feel like conscious business is the movement that wants to emerge? I mean, we were both feeling this, And I was really so honored to come on with you and the team there, because I know you've walked this yourself in your own life and embodied this so beautifully at the Humanities team. So it seemed like the perfect place to launch this initiative with all our incredible partners.
Well, thank goodness for all of us in Humanities team that you made the decision you did, John. Look where we are today with your leadership